Hi, this is Astro Indicator Update, Excursions into Practical Astrology. My name is Stephen, and this is episode 55, titled More Pluto, Body Snatchers, Market Update. So here's today's content. I'm going to be just briefly touching upon this long Pluto transit in the USA chart, wondering if the positive qualities of Pluto will ever surface, meaning the purging sort of the darker forces that I think are in play in the world. And then I'm going to briefly talk about, just sort of for fun, the movie Invasion of the Body Snatchers, which seems to have some parallels, at least personally for me, about what's happening. And then we'll look at the astrology of several markets: the Dow Jones, gold, silver, Bitcoin, Ethereum, and the US dollar. Now, if you don't want to listen to a 20-minute video, you can get these dates and a little commentary at my website, astroindicator.com, which I update once a week. I only do a video maybe on a monthly basis. I also do personal astrology consultations, primarily focusing on transits and trading, if you are a trader, investor. So this is the USA chart. Bear with me. I'm not in the country right now. I'm kind of out in a remote location. Actually, you may hear some birds and chickens in the background. But I'm holding my microphone in my hand. And so in order to kind of draw some lines in here, I have to use both hands. So hold on. So this is the transit that's been going on for over a year. It's going to continue for another year. It is Pluto opposite the USA Mercury. There's Mercury right there. And we've had Pluto, Jupiter, and Saturn moving through Capricorn. It has been opposite this Mercury. Many of my videos have dealt with this. I just wanted to say that it is continuing and it is getting more exact. The Pluto opposition. It is getting more exact to Mercury. We'll see if this makes, if the control, the what I regard as tyranny, the top-down, the effort to increase kind of a top-down control measures worldwide, if those are going to get worse, or if something is going to break and truly people, the majority, or at least half of the people who don't see what's going on, will wake up a little bit and see how manipulative things really are. That's my opinion. So we'll see if the plan to, eradicate the swamp will ever manifest. And I see that being reflected here in the astrology. So Pluto is opposite Mercury. It continues. It is going to continue for another year. Now, on a personal level, when you have a transit like this, usually the worst part of it is in the beginning stages. People start adapting, they recognize, and they start kind of acknowledging some kind of darker energy, and it starts to get expressed, hopefully safely, just on the level of consciousness. And in that process, there is a healing, a maturing, an evolution can come about. But this is what's the primary thing that's what's going on. In addition, right down here, you can see we have, starting tomorrow, we have an exact conjunction of Jupiter and Saturn. You can look on the web and get a lot of interpretations of this, but this doesn't happen too often, and particularly when it's starting at the beginning of a sign. So we'll see if the faith and confidence and maybe greater degree of morality of that Jupiter might represent will kind of overcome the fear and the again, the emphasis on control that Saturn represents. So faith hopefully will be growing in the world. whatever that form that takes for people. And I think it needs to be combined with some activism, faith plus activism, and maybe we can make some positive changes in the world. Okay, so hold on. We'll move on here. Now, a while back, I watched this movie, 1956 version of Invasion of the Body Snatchers, and it just struck me how similar it was to my own experience of being in the world today, particularly in the U.S. And then I saw a Zero Hedge article commenting, and the author indicating and saying exactly the same thing that I had been, experiencing. So I got kind of curious. If you haven't seen this movie, just briefly, it's very good. It's the best version, in my opinion, of Invasion. There have been several versions. But, these aliens from another world, someplace, come in, and I won't go into all details, but they essentially take over the body of people in this small community. And suddenly, people are looking at their wives, or kids are looking at their parents and saying, you look just the same, but you are different. You're not the person that you used to be. And in a nutshell, that is sort of my experience with many people, and I'm sure you share this, but many people who I thought I knew just have completely different thoughts and views and values that I used to assume that they had. And I don't know if it's just my misperception of them previously, or if it is, indeed is just what I regard as kind of corporate brainwashing that they have succumbed to. And they are just not the same people. And so this is analogous, okay? I'm not saying aliens have taken over anybody, but this is truly analogous. And you might find the movie fascinating just on that level. So it's the 1956 version of Invasion of the Body Snatchers. And so anyway, as a sort of someone who's really into astrology, I said, well, what the hell, I'll look at when this movie came out. And here's the premiere of the movie. It was February 5th, 1956. I placed it in Los Angeles. And I don't know when the movie started. I did it at 5 p.m., so the ascendant, which is right here, could be another sign. But the position of the planets are going to be the same. And I guess not to my surprise, because I see these things all the time. When you have certain themes, you have certain, just similarities or energies in whatever, very often you see similar combination of planets, in two different events or, people or whatever. But look at what's going on here. And again, I need to use both hands. Hang on. We have Pluto and Jupiter, again, conjunct, just like they are now, okay, in the sky. In addition, even though it's not an opposition, we have a in conjunct between Pluto, Jupiter, and Mercury, the same planets that are highly accented in the U.S. right now. Furthermore, we have Saturn in the mix, because we have Saturn squaring, or it's not squaring, where is Saturn here? It is squaring. Saturn squaring this Pluto-Jupiter conjunction. So all the same, energies and planets are in play on the day that this movie came out. And so you look at the beginnings of things in astrology and the kind of the seed quality. It represents kind of the signature of what is going to, grow and evolve, from within that event or entity or whatever. And again, we just see the same ones come up. Furthermore, in addition to those things, we have a T-square to Neptune. And so there's a sense of unreality, a surreal quality to the experience of our protagonist in the movie. And to tell you the truth, I feel the same way when I'm out in the world. with everyone wearing masks and distancing, and I personally question a lot of these things. So you might be interested in watching the movie, just for the heck of it, fun of it, and see if you have similar reaction that I had. But we were living in a very, very unusual, strange, tragic time period, and this movie just, to me, represented many of my own experiences that I've been having. So anyway, that's about it. I just wanted to present that. And you can do your own research and look back at my past videos on, I get into the meaning of Pluto and Jupiter. I'm not going to just do it over and over again. But to see the same things in the movie just really surprised me. Okay, let's look at some markets. So a lot of things are going on, particularly in Bitcoin and I think gold. And we may, in the Dow Jones here, we may be stalling out a little bit. Now, I combine, if you go to my website, there's a longer description of this, but I combine astrology with traditional technical analysis. And that is pretty much represented in this chart. I have momentum indicators down here that are standard ones, the RSI, MACD. I use moving averages, 50-day moving averages. I use, what I regard as typical support and resistance areas, the horizontal lines here, the trend lines. But all the vertical lines that you see on this chart are related to the astrology of the Dow Jones or any particular market that I'm dealing with. And, I try to know which ones I think are most bullish dates, and very often I'll put them in green, but I have to emphasize the context, the other indicators. If the market is overbought, oversold, the fundamentals all have to be factored in. Even if I get a very strong astrology date, if this market is overbought, like the Dow Jones is, if you see right up here, this market has been overbought for some time, the strength of those dates start to diminish, okay? But then the inverse is true. If the market is oversold, very oversold, sometimes you'll get a strong reaction from an astrology date, like right here, that even though the astrology is sort of a medium grade, energy date, if you understand, kind of get what I mean. So you have to take context into consideration. So what's coming up? Well, we've had 3 strong astrology dates just within the last couple weeks in the Dow Jones, and we have not taken out this trend line. This is not good for higher prices. Why do I say that? It's because we're starting to go through a period over the next month and 6 weeks where there is not a lot of astrology in the Dow Jones index. And usually when that happens, historically, the market at best trades sideways or starts to trade down. And again, other things, fundamentals, a larger stimulus package than we had expected and so forth could come in. However, in my view, the astrology just isn't very strong until, the next one after the one that we just had on Friday isn't until January, 7th or 8th or so. Now, sometimes you get a 1 or 2 delay in a reaction to an astrology date. So my qualifier here is let's see what happens on Monday or Tuesday, because we didn't get a bullish reaction. We traded down on Friday. This could be off just by one, trading day. So let's see what happens Monday. But if Monday and Tuesday we start drifting down, I think we could, at the very minimum, come back and test this support area. Okay, let's move on. Okay, gold. Gold has been bouncing off of a support level. Initially, it was a technical bounce. Then we've had a couple, astro key dates come into play. Both with gold and silver, we have to take into consideration intermarket dynamics, and so sometimes, what's happening in gold will affect silver and vice versa. But we've broken through the 50-day moving average. We have a couple key dates approaching. Let me look at my notes here. They're around Christmas. The 23rd, the 26th, the 27th, all are in there. So just, all those dates right around Christmas. And then we get into stronger astro dates in January. And they'll be posted on my website or on my next video. But we'll have to see what happens around Christmas. Usually the volume is a little bit lower. We'll look at silver in just a second. But in general, the astrology is quite positive through January into February for the precious metals. In gold, you have to look at this trend line right here. It's the most important one. If we break above that trend line, we are going much higher, in my opinion. Okay, so here's silver. Excuse me. And so silver has its own trend line. It has been responding to this astro date that took place on the 11th. And let me look back and see what that one was, because I think it was very strong. Yes, it was, maybe a grade A minus or something in strength. But we have something coming up on, actually, maybe in the futures market today, which should continue into Monday. So watch the futures market in silver today and tomorrow. We also have some sizable things with more volatility happening right at the end of this month. But when we get further into January, into early February, the astrology gets stronger for silver. So combine the technicals, watch this trend line right here. If we happen to break through in the futures or into Monday, particularly when we get into the end of the month, then this market is going higher. We've had a long sideways basing formation, and normally the rule of thumb is the longer that pattern is trading sideways, the larger the move up will be, okay? Bitcoin. Bitcoin was forming a classic sort of pennant right here. It broke out on one of my key dates that I've been noting and telling people about for several weeks, and that was on the 13th, and it was mostly characterized by volatility. And so given that we were looking at the RSI, that we were getting a little bit, we weren't completely oversold, but we were well off our overbought area. The MACD had been trailing down for some time, and the volatility of that day expressed itself as a move higher, breaking through that upper range of that pennant. And once we break through resistance, oftentimes we just continue higher. So we are not overbought yet. I see this market, could kind of trade sideways. We might look at the 31st. By the time we get through to the 31st, Bitcoin could be ready for a little bit of a pullback, and the 31st does have sort of pullback. Historically, the astrology kind of points that could be a real possibility. So again, you combine indicators, but also you might circle your calendar for particular days when the astrology could be significant. So here's Ethereum. Ethereum bounced. The interesting thing about Ethereum and Bitcoin is that their astrology matched up, and that often is not the case. And so when that happens, I think that also kind of explains a little bit about why we've had such a strong move in these markets. Ethereum also had a key date happen on Friday, and when that happened, it has gone through this upper zone. And so if that can stabilize above this resistance area over Monday and Tuesday, I think Ethereum is going to maybe move percentage-wise, much higher than Bitcoin. Bitcoin's had its big move on the short term, and it could very well be Ethereum's turn. But again, look at this, see where the prices are relative to this resistant trend line. Okay, finally the U.S. dollar. Well, the U.S. dollar had really historically very bullish energies just over the last week, and they did not manifest. And I told you on a number of occasions, you look at the reaction of a market, not only to news, but also to these astrology dates. And we got no reaction at all. We've traded down, and this tells me this market is really weak. I mean, we could really head south here. So you need to protect yourself, in my opinion. This isn't trading advice, but this could start really getting reflected in food prices and inflation and so forth. So inflation hedges, are whether it's Bitcoin or precious metals or whatever, are things to at least become more informed and educated about. So we don't have the main bullish drivers for a bounce here are behind us in the U.S. dollar. At best, I think we could trade sideways. So that's it for today. I'm probably only going to do this once a month. Again, I'm out of the country at the moment, and so I'm not really even sure how long this video is going to take to upload. I'm trying to keep it, minimize it. But I've been doing financial astrology for 25 years. I have a master's degree in psychology. I'm an advocate of hard money and cryptocurrency. This is my website, astroindicator.com. If you want to email me, astroindicator@gmail. I do accept Bitcoin donations. I do consultations, even though it might be a little tricky at the moment. But I do consultations, and you can email me about that. Here's a Bitcoin code if you want to send me a little Bitcoin. But thank you for listening. Please hit the like button, subscribe. Again, I don't do these very often. If you want to be notified, hit the notification button as well, and hopefully you'll get an email when my next video comes out. Thank you for listening. Bye for now.